Hello, my name is John Coffey, and this is the wrap-up video for my STEP project, Avalanche. Over the next couple minutes, we're going to be talking about the overview of the build, how it went, how my entire STEP experience has been, as well as why I made some of the component choices that I did, and some performance numbers comparing my computer to what I used to use, my laptop, which is currently right here. So first off, the thank you. It's been quite a fun learning experience so far building this computer. From picking the components to learning about videography and video editing, it's all been such a great experience for me. It's broadened my eyes into the creative world in a way that I had never seen before, since my background is in engineering. I see technical things, I make things technical, even though they might not be. I see a door swing open and I think of the physics behind it. I see a soda can and I think of the carbon dioxide that is being pressurized due to the fact that that's the system that makes it fizz. Those are the types of things that I think of. I never think of, well, oh, why is the label on that can the certain color that it is? And that's the type of thing that I've learned from this experience. I've learned how to be creative, I've learned how to expand my portfolio, I've learned how to video edit, I've learned how to be a business leader, I've learned my passion of content creation and building computers. I have learned patience, especially with these videos. They take a long time, especially because I'm currently at a co-op position where I'm working 40 hours a week. That drains me by the end of the day, and making these videos is tough. But I enjoy it, so it's kind of a break, a change of pace, if you will. I've also learned about budgeting. Specifically, we'll talk about some of the components that I picked and why I picked those components. I also learned about some motivation because once I shot the first build guide video, it was very, very difficult for me to pick myself up and really get going on the video. But I figured that out now, and it's been a personal learning process. And I also have much more confidence because sitting in front of a camera, it's a little weird if you didn't already know that. Just talking to it or talking to the microphone and then editing it together. It is quite a strange process, but I'm learning to cope with it, and I'm learning to get better with it, and my confidence is growing because of it. However, despite all of those, I have also gained a very, very capable computer that has the ability to outstrip my old laptop in every respect, including noise underload. So here's a parts overview of what's in the computer, why I picked it, and the estimated cost of what I spent on those sections due to my workload. So the scope of this build was to build a workstation computer, something that I'd be able to edit videos with, that I'd be able to play games on, that would improve my productivity when working on creative endeavors such as 3D renders or video editing, like I mentioned before. My laptop struggled a lot with this. I tried for a while, but I mean, in my freshman year engineering class, when we were working with SolidWorks, my laptop would stutter across the screen as I tried to drag one of my three-dimensional objects, and that really frustrated me. And now that I'm getting into content creation, that would happen all the time on my laptop. So I wanted to make sure that I had a good CPU, that I had enough RAM, and that I had a lot of storage. So that's what I did. I picked the 5820K. It's an Intel i7 processor with 6 cores with 12 threads. And we could go into explaining all of that, but essentially I have more cores than most. These are also clocked at a very lofty 4.2 gigahertz over their 3.0 to 3.3 boost standard clock speeds. This is because of the cooling potential that the NHD15 that I put into it has. It's been an incredible cooling unit so far, and I hope it lasts for quite a long time. So the RAM, I went with 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. DDR4 in particular, it's a standard within RAM. Essentially, you have DDR, DDR2, DDR3, DDR4. DDR4 is the most recent one, and it works with the X99 platform, which is what the 5820K is part of. It's technically a chipset, the X99 chipset, which has instructions for that particular CPU, and it uses DDR4 RAM. But we can get into the technicalities later. So I picked 16 gigabytes because it helps with video editing. When I'm currently working on any of these videos or working in an After Effects type scenario, I'm typically using 13 to 14 gigabytes of RAM due to the RAM caching that Adobe uses. It's really helpful because it means that I can watch a lot of the stuff back in real time. You don't realize until you have to render something as you're looking at it how slow that actually takes. It takes, say, a 30 frames per second video and reduces it to maybe 2 or 3 frames a second, depending on how heavily I've edited that particular clip. For hard drives, I have a 500 gigabyte SSD that holds my operating system, my programs, and a render cache. The render cache is only used for temporary Adobe files. It's not something I put like all my renders on. That's what the 4 terabyte Hitachi hard drive and the 1 terabyte WD Black, Western Digital Black drive is. The Western Digital Black is a 7200 RPM drive that is meant for speed. So it's going to be my caching drive, more or less. The 4 terabyte drive is going to be for bulk storage. It's a little slower, but it's a NAS series drive. NAS is a network attached storage for the non-technical of you. It essentially means that anything that I put on there is going to be safe for a long period of time, assuming that no power surges are the cause of failure. I have a GTX 980 for my graphics card. Graphics cards are what puts the image on your screen. It also helps with pre-rendering in Adobe After Effects and Premiere Pro, as well as helping out with some of the rendering workload using CUDA, depending on which codec you're using. For rendering, I felt that it was necessary to put the money into the processor and the RAM rather than the graphics card, because this was meant to be a workstation. The case and cooling solution was the quietest high-performance solution that I could find. I have 3 intake fans and 1 exhaust fan. I'm actually debating changing it to 2 intake, 2 exhaust, but we'll see. These fans that I'm using, the Noctua fans, they're incredibly quiet. They work for a long time, and they're static pressure optimized, which means that the more pressure that you have on the inside of the case, the more that air is pushing out of the little gaps and holes in the case rather than being sucked in, which means you're going to have less dust over time in your case. I went a little overboard. Most people do 2 in 1 or like 3 in 2, but I did 3 in 1. This is just due to the fact that I really don't want to clean this computer all that often, and I needed to make sure I had enough airflow for the components to stay cool, because even though these components are very high performance, very power efficient components, they will get hot under load, as I can show you in the benchmarks that we're going to get to in a second. And then the power supply that I chose, the EVGA G2 750 watt power supply. It's a fantastic power supply. I've seen reviews, I've seen teardowns of it. All of the capacitors that they use are fantastic. All of the soldering points are like very well done. The efficiency, especially in the range of power draw that I will be using, roughly 400 to 450 watts at load, will put my power supply in the peak of its efficiency, so putting it roughly 92-93% efficient, which is incredible for a power supply of this size. That's going to help with not only the energy bill at the end of the month, but also help with the overall efficiency of the computer and making sure that every component has nice clean power. Now, to go into the pricing, the CPU cost roughly $300 of the $2,000. The DDR4 RAM at that time cost roughly $160. The SSD and the hard drives cost roughly $250. The GTX 980 cost roughly $550. The case and cooling solution was probably another $300. And then the power supply was another $100. Of course, we also have the motherboard in there. I know that probably doesn't add up to $2,000. I'm doing this off the top of my head, but those are the rough estimates. And I thought it was important to put money where I needed it. So I put it in the graphics card and I put it in the CPU, those that are going to be doing the most rendering. I tried to spread out the money as evenly as I could, because unlike, say, a gaming rig, it's not super important that I have a super overpowered graphics card and a lower power CPU. I wanted to balance things out so that my rendering times are going to be the best that they can be, and that I don't have any bottlenecks in the system. So here are some of the benchmarks that I ran. We're going to go through 3D Mark, which is a graphics-based performance benchmark. We're also going to be running through PC Mark and Cinebench. Cinebench is a rendering performance benchmark. So you can see the direct comparison between my laptop and my desktop, and how significant of an increase, how real world of an increase I'm going to have in terms of my productivity, and a decrease in the render times. So here they are. This has been one heck of a ride, but I'm very glad that the STEP program gave me this opportunity. If you would like to see any of the other videos that I have created, feel free to click on the links on the screen now, or in the document that you're currently reading, which is my STEP reflection. So thank you for everyone who made this possible. It's been an incredible experience, and it's something that's going to stay with me the rest of my life. Because I discovered a passion, and that passion, I don't know where it's going to take me, but I'm hoping it'll take me far. So here we go, the end of my STEP project. I'm John Coffey, and this is my build, Avalanche.